Speaking of very good,
Mm-hmm.
I have not played Hades yet because I really need to address the Joy-Con drift on my Switch, and they don't yet have the cross-save in that version of the game. So until both of those things are fixed, I may hold off on playing Hades, but man, people seem to like Hades.
It's good.
Hades
is a good
It was
game.
like, holy shit, like it fucking like rocketed to the top of the eShop when it came out. Like I feel like everybody I know is just like gushing over how much they like it.
Over 1 million, right?
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
including early access, they got out there and said lifetime. I think they've sold over 1 million copies now.
And that's the thing, man. Like, so I played Hades right around the time that they were getting ready to announce Hades, and it was that good then.
Yeah.
It just was. There was less content, you
Right,
know,
yeah.
like
When they skeleton.
yeah, when they put out the first early access build and they launched alongside the Epic Store, a very popular move. That game was already like fucking good. Like the feel of it, you were like, okay, no, like this is, and playing it, I was like, you know, that was like 2 years ago, something like that now, coming up on.
Yeah.
It was, yes, almost. It was like the Game Awards 2018.
Yeah,
so like December.
right. Yeah. So it was like Dead Cells was very much on everyone's mind at that point. And so you play it and you're like, I see, like there's a tightness, there's a feel to this, that there is a kinship with Dead Cells. It's not the same style of game per se or anything, but like the feel that they went for, I think evoked that vibe, whether they intended to or not. But it just felt great out of the gate. And then, you know, I think I checked in on it 2 or 3 more times just for like, I'd download it, play it for another 3 or 4 hours or something, and see like, oh, they put in a new weapon, that's cool, and just kind of move on to the next thing. Kind of always telling myself like, oh, it'll hit 1.0 and then I'll really dive into it. And now it's here, and the game is that's probably the best game Supergiant has made.
I agree with that.
I like Bastion a lot.
Yes, I
Bastion was a
love
killer,
Bastion.
like, hey, check this out. This is a great debut, right? Bastion was just like, boom, check this out. It was great. It was tight. Up to this point, Bastion was all my favorite.
Yeah,
Supergiant.
Yes, I think Bastion hit on all levels for people: story, game mechanics, like all the whole shebang. I think I admire the hell out of Transistor and Pyre. Like I love the fact that they make weird stuff that they want to make, you know. But those games are, I feel like, esoteric in a way that maybe not everybody was fully on board, or that's just kind of the sense I've gotten. But like Hades appears to have mass appeal in a way that none of their games, maybe except Bastion to some degree, have had before. Like it seems like just that is a meat and potatoes good ass video game, and people are clicking with it in a major way.
Yeah, I love
of all of their games. Like it has, you know, what Bastion did incredibly well for me was like weapons. All the weapons felt great in Bastion, and Hades has that. It has the storytelling. This has like, it just is. I mean, we're going to talk about Spelunky later, but like Spelunky, it's kind of this like masterclass of game design of like, it's a fairly simple game, right? You move from room to room, you fight waves of enemies, you get an upgrade, you continue. Like that's the whole loop. There's meta upgrades, there's stuff like that, but like it does what it sets out to do so well.
Yeah, totally. It's. I have not unlocked all the weapons yet. Like I keep dying in the second area. Like I'm not even seeing anything close to the content that they've been adding to the game over the last year or whatever, I'm sure. But I just, the characters, the voice work, the stuff that you kind of expect, like the Supergiant usually like really nails.
That's the thing I've seen people calling out more than anything, I think, is the storytelling. Like, you would expect that because, you know, they've dabbled with narration and stuff like that in the past quite a bit.
I think specifically because it's a roguelike and you don't really get a lot of really strong storytelling from roguelikes.
Right. Yeah, and I've seen people, and again, I'm just quoting people here and play it myself, but like I've seen the idea floated a lot that it actually uses that cyclical nature of a roguelike in service of the storytelling, that there is like, you know, there's a thematic tie-in for the way that stuff works and the fact that you are repeating this stuff over and over.
Yeah, like they kind of illustrate some of that right out of the gate, because, you know, you're escaping and just like Hades just there at his desk and you just go like, oh, you fucking died again, huh, dipshit. All right, and then goes back to work. Like they build that in really well, and
your character will comment when it's the furthest they've ever been. Your character will comment like if you run into a boss you've already beat. Like
Yeah, that stuff is really sharp. Or like the when you see a boss, again, like they will comment if you beat them last time or not, or like it's it feels very active. It feels very aware of the stuff you're doing, and that really helps. There's a lot of stuff that like unlocks like over time, where it's like, oh, if you have X number of conversations with this character, it will unlock more of the codex and kind of deepen that stuff as well. It does some of the stuff they do where like, oh, you can kind of turn on some harder challenges or unlock some different things that'll make it easier, harder, whatever. And yeah, I just, for me, it's the art. I think the portraits of the different characters and gods and stuff that you're interacting with, I think are really good, but the way that style gets represented in game, it just looks so damn good.
Their art,
just the animation and just all that. Yeah,
it's the design, like the background design. I love the Elysium world. I think that's like the coolest visual world. Everything's got that kind of like greenish gray coating and stuff. It's a beautiful game.
Yeah, it's I think it's the best thing they've done. It like as much as I like Bastion, like the more Hades I play, I'm like, you know what, this is probably a better game.
That's awesome.
I've not seen it on Switch. It runs well there, I'm told.
That's what everybody that I've seen. Yeah.
I've only ever played it on Switch, but it runs super well. I haven't experienced like much slowdown at all, which is pleasant.
Yeah,
I was going to mention. Cool. I happened to look at their Steam page because you mentioned, that was one of the early Epic exclusives. Maybe not the first one, but like that was. Or what? Maybe it was the first one. I don't remember.
It might have. I mean, it was. I mean, if it was there when the store launched, and it was not on Steam for a year or whatever. So if it's not the first, it is tied with the first or whatever. But like, yeah.
So like that's an interesting test case of whether that actually hurts you on Steam or not. And I happened to look at their Steam page, and they have almost 25,000 user reviews for that game, which is like among the most I've ever seen on Steam, and they're listed as overwhelmingly positive. Like, quite clearly, it did well on Steam as well.
Yeah, that's my understanding is that it seemed to do just fine on Steam. Looking at those stats,
yeah,
but
that's awesome. I'm super happy for them.